baby sunscreen. So I'm making this video in the middle of summer. So we're using lots of baby sunscreen during this time, but honestly, even when it's not summer, it's important to think about, babies' coverage in regards to the sun any time of year, anytime they're outside. So it's not just in the summer when we want to be thinking about baby sunscreen. So I'm going to be telling you a little bit about what you want to look for and what you want to avoid. So first and foremost, you don't want to put any sunscreen on a baby until they're 6 months old. So before that time, you want to protect a baby from the sun by keeping them in the shade as much as possible and putting them in UPF clothing. So UPF clothing, that stands for ultraviolet protection factor. So UPF clothing. If you just Google UPF baby clothes, you'll find lots of options. You also want to get a hat that is made with UPF material. Okay, but then fast forward to when baby's 6 months or older, you can start to use sunscreen, but you want to stay away from sunscreens that use chemicals that protect the skin from the sun by using chemicals that are absorbed into the skin. So they are effective at protecting from sunburn, but they expose the baby to all sorts of chemicals. So the main chemicals that you want to stay away from, the first one is Oxybenzone. So this is a chemical that is commonly found in sunscreens, and it is potentially a hormone disruptor. It's been linked to early puberty, so you don't want baby exposed to that. The other one is retinol palmitate. Say that 5 times fast. Okay, so this is primarily added to sunscreen for anti-aging effects, which obviously your baby doesn't need. And it has actually been linked to skin cancer, which is kind of ironic that a product in sunscreen is linked to skin cancer. So you really want to stay away from retinol palmitate as well, and that Oxybenzone. Okay, so in addition to those chemicals, you want to stay away from aerosol sprays because 2 things. A sprayed on sunscreen makes it harder to evenly apply the sunscreen, and it exposes baby to airborne particles. So they might be actually breathing in those chemicals. And obviously that's not good for anybody, but especially a baby with those fresh little lungs. Okay, so what do we want? So ideally we want a sunscreen that is a physical blocker that is 30 SPF or higher. So a physical blocker means that the ingredients in the sunscreen are not absorbed by the skin, but they just sit on the surface of the skin and they reflect the rays. But again, no chemicals are being absorbed by the body. So there are 2 main minerals that are used to create the sunscreen that's a physical blocker. So one of the main ones is zinc oxide. So again, zinc oxide is a chemical-free mineral that blocks baby's skin from UV rays. But with this, you want to make sure that it's a non-nano zinc oxide, as nanoparticles in zinc oxide can be absorbed by the skin. So we want a non-nano zinc oxide. Titanium dioxide is another mineral that works much like zinc oxide, reflecting the sun, but it's not actually absorbed by the body. You also want to make sure you get a sunscreen that's broad spectrum, meaning that it protects against UVA and UVB rays. So again, we want a baby sunscreen that has a primary ingredient of zinc oxide or titanium dioxide, and the non-nano zinc oxide. A physical blocker doesn't have any of those yucky chemicals. Mainly, it should really just have 1 or 2 ingredients. And again, kind of going back to the newborn babies, while of course we want to keep our older baby protected with sunscreen, ideally we keep them in the shade as much as possible and put that UPF clothing on them as well. But again, with older babies, you have a little bit more flexibility because you can still put some on their face or their hands, any area that isn't covered by that clothing. And then you want to ideally apply every 15, 20 minutes or so, especially if baby's getting a lot of sun exposure. And then for the stroller, if you like doing a lot of walks, get a little sunshade for the stroller, because sometimes even though there's that canopy above a stroller, if you're walking into the sun, babies still might be blasted by the sun. So you can get these sunshades that go over the stroller, and there's still good ventilation. Baby can breathe, but they're protected from the sun. All right, if you have any questions about baby sunscreen or any other aspects of baby care, let me know in the comments below.